Azure offers you Azure Active Directory or PIM type of security services or conditional access. PIM is for identity access management, and especially for identity management, and conditional access for access management. What type of access rights I want to assign to someone. So you can see here we have different layers. Right, in perimeter we have DDoS and Azure firewall, which can be used here. All the topics, whatever you can see here, not the topics actually, but all the security services, whatever you can see here, we are going to again cover them in our next upcoming slides. When we talk about network security, for the network security, Azure offers you to use NSG, Network Security Group, ASG, and some other microsegmentation. Microsegmentation means somewhere type of subnetting to make our network more secure and customized. Host security, it depends what type of host we are using here for the deployment of any service. That can be any computer, that can be any virtual machine or any container also, because both we can use here to deploy any application or any service. And then here we have application or data, whatever we have already covered. So here guys, we have virtual network security, VNet. What is this virtual network here first of all? So when we are connected directly with any data center, physically we are connected with any data center and we want to communicate with each other. At that time, we are somewhere using a physical network. Somewhere we are using a physical network there. That can be a physical network wire also. But here, in that same case, if we are accessing some resources with the help of network anywhere else, that means the network is also not physically connected with me. Somewhere when I'm creating my account in Azure Data Center, so each and every resource, each and everything, whatever they have configured in their data center is virtualized for me. I can use the virtual copy for everything. If I want to create one virtual server or virtual data center, yes, I can do that. How? First of all, I'm going to create one, we can say, virtual machine. Into that, we can install any operating system, whatever we want to install into that virtual machine. That can be a server 2016, 19, 22, any operating system, whatever you want. And then your server is ready to use. Same way, if there is any physical network available in their data center, that network is also virtualized for you. Why? Because only with the help of that virtual network, you can connect your resources into Azure Data Center. So because of that, virtual network is very important part, or to establish connection between the client or the physical data center, as well as the clients can access the resources anywhere in the world with the help of this virtual network. So that is also very important to implement security of that virtual network. Now, how many options we have here which can be used to implement security for the virtual network as well? So first of all, you can see here we have some recommendation only, where we can use dynamic and reserved public IP addresses. Where we are configuring any virtual network, there we can use some dynamic or reserved public IP addresses, direct virtual machine access, load balancer, DNS hosting, traffic management, DDoS protection. So all these are the services and the options which can be used here to implement security about our virtual network. But all these services are not just for virtual network security. Some services we have here to manage our backend pool as well. Where we are deploying any service, that can be any that can be any application deployment, web application deployment, like whatever service we are planning to deploy from here, that also can be secured with the help of these services. Bring your own network, segment with subnet, add NSG group, create user-defined route. So we will discuss about all these parts again. Point-to-point network, or point-to-point or point-to-site connections we can use there. VPN gateway. Yes, Azure always offers you to use a secure network whenever you're going to access anything from Azure to on-prem. So Azure offers you to use two different networks or two secure networks, that is VPN or ExpressRoute. We will discuss about both of them. Now here we have very interesting or easy topic, that is DDoS, distributed denial of service. What is this DDoS? Is this any service of Azure? No. DDoS is one kind of very famous attack where the purpose of this DDoS is to anyhow gain access in your network environment and to make that network very busy so that the original user will not be able to use the services or access the services from that environment. So the main motive of this DDoS attack or the attacker is to anyhow gain access in your network environment by targeting any particular device or resource and then start controlling that device or resource according to them. In this type of attack, an attacker create number of bots. Bots are some, we can say, dummy machines. So that person creates number of dummy machines for the bots, and then from everywhere an attacker send request to the target machine in any network. If successfully the attacker is able to gain access, then that attacker is going to make that network very busy. Suddenly the utilization of that network is getting increased because of this attack, right? So in this DDoS attack, the attacker wants to anyhow stop the services deployed by any owner from anywhere. So it is going to send huge traffic in that network with the help of target device. This is the target, to disturb all the communication. So Azure says, because this is very known and famous attack, so for this attack or like to oppose this attack only, you do not need to use any extra service, any antivirus application or any different application you do not need to use here. Because this is very famous attack. So to oppose this attack, we are giving you security, especially about DDoS. When you create in your environment and you start deploying any service from Azure cloud environment, so at that time you can have the separate configuration steps only for DDoS, so that if any DDoS type of attack happens in your network environment, so about that you will get acknowledgement, as well as here you will be able to use some policies as well to oppose that network, oppose that type of attack. You can use some policies also to oppose that type of attack here in your environment. As you can see here, at the target location we have public IP, from where I'm deploying anything, any service. These public IP addresses I have assigned to my resources. Suppose from here I want to deploy 2 web applications. I want to protect these 2 web applications with the help of some policies. And now I want to protect these web applications anyhow. Initially, I'm just creating the applications and I'm going to start the deployment of these web applications to the end user. As you can see here, we have the customers. So all these customers are accessible to these applications anywhere in the world because they are the authorized users of my Active Directory. So I want to give them access. But after that, when these users start accessing these applications from here, any attacker can come in that same network environment and can access everything from here, which we do not want. If any DDoS type of attack happens in this environment, so the utilization of these resources suddenly getting very high. As you can see here in these pictures also, Suppose initially 20,000 or two, like approximate, just for example, 20,000 users was using my service. But suddenly one DDoS attack happens here, and because of that, the utilization is going very high, right? So here what you can do when you're going to configure DDoS protection separately on the top of your network, from which network you're deploying something. So when you're deploying any DDoS protection there, how it will help you? First of all, DDoS protection creates one security wall for your network environment so that any attacker will not be able to attack in your network environment by creating their bots. But somehow, if that attacker gain access in your environment, in that case, what was the motive of that attacker? To anyhow increase the utilization of your resource very quickly. So here you can do one thing. You can set a limit here that if the utilization of my resource goes up to this level, as an admin, I want to get notification from here. So when the number of bots attack, or with the help of bots, an attacker attacks on that application, so the administrator going to receive a notification from here, and when that administrator or admin check the application utilization, he found, okay, within 1 minute, this utilization is getting very high. That means someone attack on this network environment, and then you can start changing your properties about that environment. And in this way, you will be able to oppose to this type of attack. Then here we have some other security services also, which we can implement on the top of network to make this more secure. What is that? That is firewall. And this firewall is not new for anyone, I don't think. Because firewall is not a new service. Firewall you are already somewhere using in your physical laptop as well. What is the property of firewall? If the firewall of your laptop is on and you want to give access of your laptop to someone, like if you want to give the remote of your laptop, your machine to someone, so the person will not be accessible to that. Why? Because the default property of firewall is to oppose all the unknown networks or unknown users to connect with your network or with your device. This is the default property of firewall. That means now if you want to give the remote of your machine to someone, you will have to first disable the firewall, and then only the person will be accessible to your device. Same way here, Azure also offers you to use firewall in your environment to enable protection about the resources, whatever you're deploying from Azure cloud environment for any purpose. So this Azure firewall or this firewall is one Azure managed service, which will help you to protect your Azure virtual network resources. And the service which we are using here from Azure side is a fully stateful firewall as a service, which offers you built-in high availability and unrestricted cloud scalability also. As I already told you, the property of this firewall is, the default property of this firewall is to block all the traffic, to block all the unknown traffic, we can say, not the traffic, all the unknown traffic, it blocks. If the sender of any request is not known to this network, that person will not be able to sign into this network. So here you can create some firewall rules from outside as well if you want. And then you can integrate those rules with your environment so that any outsider, if any outsider is not able to work according to the rules, so the request is automatically going to go from here with the help of firewall. Now here we have firewall implementation. So here you can see in backend we have two spoke 1 and spoke 2. these spokes are somewhere type of backend pool, means number of servers we have in data center. Just for example, in backend we have number of servers. As you can see, in spoke 1 we have 2 servers, in spoke 2 we have 2 servers, from where I'm deploying any service for the end user. But here between end user and my backend pool, or we can say subnet spoke VNets, I want to use some security services so that I can filter all the traffic coming from anywhere. At the entrance only, I want to filter all the traffic coming from anywhere. So here, what we can do, we can create some inbound and outbound rules as per our requirement. As you can see, all the requests coming from anywhere is always going to be received here at the firewall level only, where at this firewall, you can define your own rules for inbound and outbound. According to that rule only, if any user, whoever is sending any request here to access something from your backend pool, if that user is able to work according to the rules applied by you, the person will be able to connect with the spoke, will be able to connect with the backend pool, and can access any service from here. If not, then automatically the access is going to be denied for that person. Traffic is by default denied if that traffic, that request cannot work according to the rules applied by you. Now here Azure gives you one more option, because this Azure firewall is a managed service. Azure managed service. But if you already have your firewall configured at your on-prem location and you want to filter all the traffic with the help of that, so you can integrate your on-prem firewall with Azure, and then whatever rule you want to deploy from your on-prem to Azure, that will be possible. Now each and every request coming from client side going to receive by this firewall as a service, then it is going to send that request to on-prem, and from there only it is going to get verification about that request, and then only the user will be allowed to sign in, otherwise. And this firewall specially works with layer 3 and layer 7 of OSI model. Layer 7 is application layer, layer 3 is network layer. We have VPN force tunneling. What is this? As I already told you, Azure always says that in a case you are creating your account here on Azure Cloud Platform for any purpose, either for personal use or for official use, the world. That data can be accessible to you anywhere. You always should use a secure network there. A VPN, virtual private network type of security or secure network, or one more service we can use here, which Azure offers to you to use, that is express route. Right? So now that is your choice, which option you want to use. I hope everybody is aware about this VPN already. VPN is virtual private network. VPN is virtual private network which offers you to pass your traffic with the help of any tunnel. When we are purchasing internet plan from any ISP, internet service provider, so there they are going to reserve one public IP for us, and all my traffic is going to travel through that IP only, public IP, which is paid. But whatever route I'm using there to send or receive my traffic from anywhere, whatever route I'm using there, that is public route. Means anyone can come in that route. Why? Because I'm not paying some extra money. I'm working with very basic plan, and everybody can use that same route or backbone to travel their data. Azure says that here you can use or you can purchase a specialized plan in which the service provider will offer you a private route only for you. That here there will not be any traffic on this route. Only your traffic is going to move here, so that quickly you will be able to deliver your data from one location to another location, and no one as outsider is going to disturb you. So here you can see we have one virtual network at bottom, and this virtual network is available in Azure cloud environment. On the top of this picture we have on-prem infrastructure. Now here what I want to do, first of all, I want to enable connection between my on-prem to Azure. So here also, because on-prem is near to me and Azure is a global service. So here, when I'm going to establish connection between both of them, so there also Azure says that you should use a secure network that can be VPN, so that no one as outsider can disturb your communication. So here, when we start using VPN, at both end of this VPN, entrance or exit, we should use VPN gateway so that we can filter all the traffic. This is advice. As well as now in this picture, suppose that now if any person, that person is a part of your Active Directory, and that person wants to access something from your backend pool, from your data center with the help of basic internet connection. Although that person is a part of your Active Directory, but he directly wants to access anything from your Azure cloud environment or from on-prem. Do you want to allow him? No. All the traffic I want to receive, first of all, at my on-prem location. And because here I have enabled VPN connection, means all the traffic is going to pass from on-prem to Azure only with the help of one secure network, that is one tunnel. So that the person is going to connect with Azure through that tunnel only. That means the person is first of all going to be verified as a on-prem Active Directory level, and then only the person will be able to gain access into that tunnel, otherwise no. And then only the person will be accessible to the data from Azure, otherwise no. Here you can disable all the direct connection for anyone if the connection is coming from directly internet. That is your choice, or that depends on your design. If you want to give some limited access, if the person is part of your Active Directory and that person is sending their request here to Azure for anything with the help of simple internet, so still you can give them some accesses for some resources, but that will be very limited access you can offer him, right? Now here we have UDR, user defined route, and NVA. Actually we have two different terms. One is UDR or SDR. SDR, you all are right now connected with some networks. You are the part of any network for now. In that network or in that communication, you are using one device. First of all, you're going to purchase connection from ISP. ISP going to give you one cable or like one IP, public IP they are going to reserve for you, that you will have to configure in your device named as router or router cum modem. And then you are going to connect all your devices with that router as well. Now, from your device, if you want to send your request to anywhere, facebook.com, google.com, or anywhere, so all that traffic is going to be received by the router, and then that router is going to connect your request in a global environment if there is no any rule applied by you. So then this router will decide that how to connect your request in a outside environment. That is the example of SDR, system defined route. There I am not managing all that communication. I'm just sending my request to router, and then router will decide that how that router is going to connect my request anywhere in the world. In that same way, here we have another part of that named as UDR, user defined route. User defined route means where I start managing my, we can say, network according to me. I want to manage all my network according to me. I want to manage all this communication. That first of all, the request which I'm going to send to my router is going to receive the request. Then after router, I want to define one virtual machine or one physical machine where I want to send my request before it moves to global environment directly. Then into that resource, I want to set filter, some I want to define there, by which again the request is going to verify, and then only I want to connect that request anywhere in the world. So in this way, I want to define all the path. I want to define all the number of hops according to me. What is hop? So in between source and destination, in all the communication in network, in between source and destination, we have number of substations. When in your device you are writing www.google.com, www.facebook.com, so directly your request is not going to get connect with Facebook platform. No, there will be some substations in between where your traffic is going to stay and then going to re-forward again to connect your request with the destination location. That is substation. And in technical, we can consider that substation as one hop, right? So at least 7 number of hops will be there in all the communication, at least 7, and can goes up to 34 also. It depends like where you're going to connect your request. So Azure says that here you can work with UDR as well, where you will be able to manage your hops according to you. Instead of working with default number of hops, you can decide your hop. As you can see here in this picture, we have web tier, public DMG, and gateway subnet. All this is our Azure cloud environment, and we want to receive requests from on-prem network, on-prem infrastructure for anything. Suppose here I want to configure one web application for which I want to give access at my on-prem location. So first of all, we are using one secure network in between both. As you can see here, gateway, web, we can say VPN gateway, we are using at both end. Then inside our Azure cloud environment, we are using UDR. And between that, we have NVA, Network Virtual Appliance. NVA can be one virtual machine or some other resources we can consider here as an NVA. Right? So here, with the help of this UDR, we can decide that if any traffic is coming from this on-prem location, is going to be received here at the gateway level to filter the traffic. Just from here, I want to send that traffic to my NVA, Network Virtual Appliance. That can be one virtual machine or any other resource in which we can define some number of rules and regulations for security. And then after the filter only, I want to connect that request in a backend pool with that application or any other environment. Directly, nothing will be accessible from here. So in this way, we can define number of virtual appliances as per our requirement, and each virtual appliance we can consider here as separate hop. So we can decide it. So where we going to customize our route according to us, according to the requirement, that will be the example of UDR, user defined route. Now here we have hub and spoke topology with Azure. What is this hub and spoke? First of all, whatever you can see here in this picture is not only the example of hub and spoke. Only in this picture we have number of example. We can use the same picture for some other topics as well. Hub and spoke says, first of all, why to use this hub and spoke? Suppose that I have 1, 2, 3 or 4 VNet. One VNet equals to one network. One network, complete virtual network. Suppose I have 1, 2, 3 or 4 VNets. I want to enable communication between all the VNets. VNet 1, 2, 3 and 4. I want to enable communication between them. So Azure offers you one service named as peering. Peering is what? That where you want to create trust between your VNets so that the resources of that VNet can directly communicate with each other. If you want to do that, that is possible. But here, you will have to create that trust everywhere. First of all, you will have to configure peering between VNet 1 to VNet 2, then VNet 2 to VNet 1 as well, both sides. Then VNet 2 to VNet 3 and VNet 3 to VNet 2. Then VNet 3 to VNet 4 and VNet 4 to VNet 3. In this way, everywhere you will have to enable that trust. But in that chain system as well, if you're going to send something from VNet 1 to VNet 4, is that possible? No, directly that is not possible. Why? Because here also you will have to create a trust. You will have to create peering between VNet 1 to VNet 4 and VNet 4 to VNet 1. Then only this communication is possible. So Azure says that if you have 1, 2, 3 or 4 VNets, you can use this chain system only to configure peering. But suppose if you have number of VNets like 20 or 50 number of VNets, and in the same way you're going to configure peering, so that is going to be very complicated for you. So what you can do here, you can select, suppose that now you have 10 VNets. Out of 10, you can select one VNet to which you're going to announce as hub, which will be free. On that hub VNet, you're not going to put any load initially. On other VNets, VNet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In all other VNets, you're going to configure a number of resources. Then when you're going to configure peering between them, so you're going to configure peering from everywhere with VNet 10. That is hub VNet. So first of all, you're going to configure peering between VNet 1 to VNet 10 and VNet 10 to VNet 1. VNet 2 to VNet 10, VNet 10 to VNet 2. In this way. Why? Because you have already defined that VNet 10 as a hub VNet, centralized VNet for others. And then the communication is possible for all of them. And here you can connect number of VNets in this structure. So that is hub and spoke model. Then that centralized VNet 10 can be considered here as a hub, and all other VNets can be considered here as a spoke. Same thing we have here. As I already told you, this complete picture is not the example of this topic. Hub VNet is just a centralized VNet between, suppose that you have some number of requesters, users at your on-prem location, and they want to access something from Azure. So here you can do one thing. You first can create a hub VNet. In that hub VNet, you can define all the security services for your network, that if any request coming from anywhere, we want to receive that request here only. First of all, we want to enable that communication, and means we want to enable encryption for that communication with the help of VPN or VPN gateway. Which VPN gateway I want For configuring hub VNet so that I can manage it centrally, as well as if you want to set some filter also to filter all the traffic coming from anywhere, you want to use some security services as filter named as firewall, that also you can use. And if now you want to give remote of your virtual machines to someone, so for that purpose especially we have one service named as Azure Bastion. Later we will discuss about this again. So Azure Bastion is a service by which you can give the remote of your machines to someone as with centralized Bastion. The property of Bastion is to hide the identity of your backend resources. So in this way we are using this hub and spoke model. As you can see, hub is a virtual network in Azure that acts here as a centralized point of connectivity to your premises on-prem network. Spoke are the virtual networks that pairs with a hub and can be used to isolate workloads. Now here we have VNet pairing and Azure Firewall. So just to show you, let me share my screen here with you all. Let me do one thing here. I'm going to share my complete desktop with all of you so that you can see everything here. Give me 1 minute only. Right. And here, I'm going to show you the use case of this in my Azure account.
Vente a comer algo. Ahorita le sigues.
Right. So here I'm writing azure.com to sign in my account. But before that, I want to make sure whether this is visible to all of you or not. No, only here I want to create it. Give me 1 minute only. I'm accessing my Azure account for now. Yes, you can see. So in this Azure account, first of all, I want to show you what was our motive here. First of all, I want to show you VNet. VNet configuration only I will show you here, because if I'm going to configure peering, that will take some time, but I will show you the roadmap, how you can configure it, as well as how and from where you can configure firewall. So that also I will show you. Although all these topics going to be covered in your lab as well. So here, first of all, I am going to configure one VNet, virtual network I want to configure. Right now in this account, I do not have any virtual network pre-configured. Just click on create. And here, we just need to provide all these information about this virtual network. You can see. Always, you will have to select one active subscription. Resource group name. So that is your choice. Whether you can select any old resource group name here, or you can create a new resource group. I want to create a new resource group, VNet RG1, and virtual network name, VNet1 just for example. From where you want to deploy this, that is your choice. East US or whatever location you want to select. Do you want to enable some security here with the help of Azure Bastion? Like if you are planning to deploy something on this virtual network, so do you want to give the access of that resource to someone with the help of Bastion, or firewall you want to use? That is your choice, but the configuration steps will be different. You can see. So later we will do that. Now here comes to the IP address. Which range of IP you want to assign here to your virtual network? Always one default range will be there. Now that is your choice. Either you can go with this default IP range only. Either you can go with this default IP range only, or you can create a new IP, or you can create a new network here as per your requirement. Or in the same network also you can add some more number of subnets. One more choice you have here. We cannot create any virtual network here without any subnet creation. So that is also your choice. Like whatever range you're going to assign to the VNet level, exactly the same range of IP you can assign to your subnet also. If you want to create only one single subnet, right? So that is just a customization part, and that is your choice which network you want to assign here. For now, I'm going with the default one only and click on review and create. Always you can change it according to your requirement. So here it will take approximate 1 minute for verification, for validation.
Para que sobreviva, si no.
Now we can click on create a virtual network.
Voy a calentar café, pero tengo que quitar el sueño. Hasta mañana. Esta mañana aquí ya tenemos la partida.
So now this is the deployment process, and you can check all this process from here also. From the notification bar, you will be able to check all the process.
Pero te interesa, ¿no? Que quede bien y aparte te puedes bañar, hijo. Pero no vas a tener que dar el remojo.
Ah, mañana lo organizamos.
Right. So just click on go to resources, and my VNet is ready to use. Now in this VNet, we can start integration of resources. Whatever resource you want to add here, that is your choice. You can do that.
Conferencia ahorita.
Here, my motive is just to show you, suppose first of all,
Como es
you
otra
want to
zona.
add any subnet here in this virtual network, some more subnets you want to add. So here is the option. From this place, you can add a subnet, you can configure gateway subnet, that is your choice. Right now I'm working with the default subnet only. But if you want to define some more subnets, here we have that option.
Bueno,
As well as here, you can move this page down and you can see we have peering option, right? Which was our main topic. Now in this peering, first of all, to configure peering, you should have at least 2 VNets where you can start that peering. If I'm going to click on add, so do you have any other VNet? First of all, peering link name. Peering 1 and traffic to remote virtual network. Do you want to allow that, or do you want to block the traffic? And yes guys, here please perform this lab very carefully, because most of you are going to get confused here, because the steps are completely same in both direction. When you're going to configure peering between VNet 1 to VNet 2 and VNet 2 to VNet 1, steps will be somewhere same. So please read the instruction properly to avoid confusion. Now traffic forwarded from remote virtual network, do you want to allow that or not? Virtual network gateway or root server, do you want to configure this? You have the option. Then here we have the remote network configuration. Means here you're going to define the configuration about your another VNet. Peering link, peering 2 or VNet 2 you can define here, and here you are going to define the properties of that another VNet, and in this way you're going to configure peering at this place. So this is the way which you're going to use at the time when you're going to configure peering for your virtual network. Firewall is also here, as you can see, directly inside this virtual network. From here, you can add the firewall. If you have already created any firewall, you can select that here. Otherwise, you can create a new firewall also here at this place. If separately you want to first configure the firewall, you can search for firewall here, and then you can start the configuration. So this is very easy. You can see all these are the steps of firewall. So you're going to use all of them in your lab. Now here we have our next topic where we will discuss about network security. In this network security, we have all these topics to discuss, and most of the topics of this network security, I will try to give you demo about them so that the topic can be easy. First of all, here we have discussion about network security group, NSG implementation, ASG application security group, service endpoint, private endpoint, Azure application gateway, web application firewall, Azure front door, and express route. So all these are the topics we are going to cover here. Now, what is this NSG? NSG is also one type of firewall by which we can control or manage or filter the traffic. With the help of NSG, we again can filter the traffic like between source and destination location, where this NSG contains number of security rules to allow or deny the traffic. Here, this NSG offers you number of security rules to allow or deny the traffic. And here we can create number of rules, where in each rule you will have to specify the source and the destination, as well as you will have to define the port number and the protocol also by which you want to send, means you want to execute that traffic to the destination location. So you will have to select that here. So here, we can create this NSG. First of all, when I'm creating an NSG, that NSG we can use for a specific resource like virtual machine, as well as we can use that NSG for the subnet, complete subnet also. Like if you have number of resources like virtual machines, and for all the virtual machines you want to use only one single NSG, so that is also possible. So first of all, here I'm going to search for NSG.
Yes.
Network security group.
From
here we can create this NSG.
40 barros.
Very short. So here I will have to create one NSG, and I want to create this NSG in the same minute. Just for example, name of NSG, NSG1. In East-US only I want to create this. That is our choice. Click on review and create.
En el centro. Ah, claro, pues sí.
It will take hardly 1 minute or less than 1 minute to deploy.
Fíjate que si solito se va a apagar ese. El otro volver me duraba 3 meses. No, tampoco. Y eso que no te bañas tan diario.
Yes. Now our resource means NSG has been deployed.
Yo creo que ya estaba más.
Just click on go to resources.
Un poquito.
And here in this NSG, as I already told you, we first can create some number of rules. Some inbound and outbound rules we can create here.
Mucho.
You can see from this place, we can create inbound security rules for all the inbound traffic, or outbound security rules for all the outbound traffic from here. But in every NSG, we have some default rules pre-configured. This is one type of firewall. So here we have some default rules already configured. You can see here. With the help of priority, name, port number, protocol, source, destination, and action. So these are the default rules created already in the NSG. Now I want to create some inbound rules, just for example. So click, and this is the custom rule which I'm planning to create now. Click on add, and here you will have to define the source, because this is the inbound rule. So here you're going to define the source from where you want to receive the traffic in your Azure environment. If the traffic is coming from anywhere, do you want to accept that? If the traffic is coming from a specific network, here you can define the network ID, that if the traffic is coming from here, only then I want to entertain, otherwise no. If the traffic is coming from a specific IP, then I want to entertain. If the traffic is coming from any service tag, like from internet, from any other resource like virtual network, from any, or we can say virtual machine, then I want to entertain it. And if the traffic is coming from any application, specific application, I want to entertain. Later, we will discuss.
Prepara que ella me lo chepa.
So for now, as a source,
Pues ya debería seguir mañana, ya me cuánto tiempo te
and here
mañana.
I'm defining asterisk only
Ya,
as my port. At destination is my account from where I'm deploying any service or resource. So at destination, what you want to do, if the traffic is coming from anywhere, do you want to connect that traffic to the specific location in your Azure account? If yes, you can define a virtual network for that, or you can specify the service tag as well. Service tag means if the request is coming from anywhere, I want to connect that request with any particular resource. That can be a storage or any virtual machine as well. I want to connect the request here only. Now, here, do you want to use any service? What type of service you want to use here for all this communication? With the help of HTTPS, what type of service you want to use? Or do you want to use custom part? I want to use custom. Which protocol you want to use? Any TCP, UDP, whatever protocol you want to use, you can define. Now, if all these situation or conditions getting match, do you want to allow the communication or deny the communication if all these situation match? So just for example, I want to allow this communication. Okay. Now, if the request is coming from this predefined like resource, then how you want to respond it? Do you want to set some priority here? Yes. For every communication, we will have to define priority. In this priority, less the number, we have one rule with priority, less the number, high the priority. And here in the custom priority rules, we can define this priority only between 100 to 4096. You can see. 100 to 4096. So here you can define the priority, how quickly you want to respond to this request. Then you can define the rule name and click on add. So this is the part of custom rule which I'm defining here. Same way, if you want, you can create outbound rule as well here. Now, once you created all these rules, for which particular environment you want to filter the traffic? Do you want to integrate any virtual machine or any resource for which you want to filter the traffic here? If yes, then click on associate. And here you can select the NIC card of that resource. But because in my account, there is no any virtual machine deployed, so I cannot select any NIC card details here. Do you want to integrate any virtual network here for which you want to filter all the traffic? Click on associate and search for virtual network if you have any virtual network here. Let me refresh this once if we can get that VNet here.
Y salchicha sí puedes, pero de pago nomás, pa.
Yes, there is nothing. When you are creating NSZ, so always try to use the same VNet in which you have deployed some number of resources, problems, then you will be able to browse them here. It will take some time here to replicate you. It may take some time. So here you will be able to browse to that virtual network so that you can implement those security rules on the top of that virtual network only. So in this way you can create NSZ as well. Now here we have NSZ implementation. So here you can see we have two different NSZ and exactly the same thing we have already covered. Now we are creating this NSZ1 as you can see here in this picture. We are creating NSZ1. In this NSZ1 we are defining some rules. Why? Because here I want to filter the traffic only about one single virtual machine. So what I want to do, like whatever service I'm deploying from this virtual machine or from this server, I want to filter the traffic about this. So for that I'm creating an NSZ rules And once I'm done with the creation of NSG rules, I want to integrate only one NSG here, only one link card here of that virtual machine. Exactly the same thing is here, as you can see. Here, we are discussing about this point now. I have created NSG rules here, and now I just want to integrate only one single virtual machine or one resource here to filter the traffic. So that is possible. But if you have number of resources under one subnet, you have number of resources deployed, that can be 1, 2, or 10 number of virtual machines, and you want to filter the traffic for all, so you can create one more NSG2, and if you, that is also possible. Suppose if you have 10 virtual machines, right? We can say 10 resources, but only for one resource you want to use some different extra rules, and for 9 resources you want to use basic rules. So you can do that. And this we can say this particular resource you have created NSG1. Then you can do one thing, because this resource is also the part of this subnet. And for this subnet you can create NSG2. Means here you can create the new rule, and then all the 10 resources going to be filtered with the help of rules, whatever you're going to deploy in this NSG2. But always you will have to know that, like, the rule which you are defining here in NSG1 should not conflict to the rule of NSG2, right? And in this way you will be able to create the rules. Now here we have some load balancing services, and this is very good part. In like some upcoming slides we will discuss about all these services, whatever you can see here. So first of all, here we have discussion about the speciality of all these load balancing services, whatever we have here. You can see here we have load balancer, basic load balancer. Azure offers you 2 different type of load balancers here: public load balancer and internal load balancer. But if I'm talking about the definition of load balancer only,
Porque fíjate que el
we
alimento
can define a load
para
balancer.
canela, ¿sí conocen la nutrien?
Load balancer offers you to balance the load in a backend pool, to distribute the traffic in a backend pool among number of servers or number of data centers only. This is the specialty of load balancer. But if we are talking about security, no, load balancer never offers you any security service. And here you can see we have 2 different categories of load balancer: internal or public. It offers you session affinity. About all these security services we will discuss in next coming slides again. Health probe. By default, the load balancer works on round robin process, first come first serve basis. But here, if you want, you can integrate one service with your load balancer named as health probe, where if the load balancer receive any request from any user from anywhere, so in that it is first of all going to send the notification to all the backend pool resources, like to all the servers. We have one request coming from client side: are you free? Are you free? Are you free? In this way. If it is getting response from any specific machine, from any specific server, only there it is going to respond. It is going to connect the request. As well as it works with SNet or DNet services. So all these are the specialty of load balancer. In short, we can say load balancer is just to distribute the traffic in backend pool. But here we have another service named as traffic manager. When we talk about traffic manager, so this traffic manager especially works in DNS service environment, where it receives the traffic at the DNS server level first of all. Then only the traffic is going to connect to the traffic manager to connect that traffic in a backend pool. Inside this traffic manager, we have some properties of load balancer as default. Here you can define a routing method. As I already told you, all the traffic coming from client side is going to be received here at the DNS server.
Y fíjate que la carne así en tacos no te hace daño, ya me explicaron ahí. Me dice,
And this traffic in this traffic manager, we have number of rules which can be configured, routing rules or routing methods we can define.
con 2 chescos.
Approximate 5 4 to 5 routing methods we can define here in Traffic Manager.
Ves
Right?
por las hormonas
Then
está muy inyectado la.
here we can use it for non-Azure environments as well and for health probe.
Es por eso.
Health probe we can integrate with Traffic Manager also. Which health probe is first of all going to check the availability of responder in backend pool, and then only it is going to connect the request coming from DNS side.
Pues ahorita ya está como muy
This is second level. And here we have application gateway. If you are deploying any application, for that application, which solution we can use to manage the traffic? Load balancer, traffic manager, or any separate service. So for the application management, traffic management, we have separate service named as application gateway. In that application gateway, by default, we have the load balancer, means all the services of load balancer is by default there. In gateway, you can have security services also with SSL and we can say TLS type of security services you can implement here. In this application gateway, we can have web application firewall, session draining, multi-site, path-based routing, URL redirection, and header rewrites. All these properties are by default here. That means now, instead of using these load balancer and traffic manager individually for any application traffic management, you can use this application gateway, which inherit the property of load balancer as well as traffic manager. Now here we have one more service named as This is also one type of gateway, but we are using this front door as for very big environment from where we are deploying number of services. And in our backend pool, we have our data centers at different region, different location. In all around the world, we have configured our data centers. And from all around the world, we're going to have requests from the client side. So, this front door, we can configure anywhere globally. And this front door,
Cualquier cosa que sientan raro,
check the
para no sé.
request type, like from where we have this request coming from client side, and especially in that reason, this front door can connect the request coming from client side automatically. So here, only inside this front door, we have everything. Now you do not need to use separate load balancer, traffic manager, and application gateway if you are working in very big environment. Then you can use this front door only, where you can see in this front door we have application gateway. All the properties of application gateway is there. All the properties of traffic manager is there. And all the properties of load balancer is by default there. Also, it offers you DDoS protection as separate. That means front door is a single solution for all these properties. So now, here we have service endpoint as the next topic. What is this service endpoint and why to use it? So service endpoint, we are using here as a single point of contact for everyone. Suppose that if you are deploying approximate 10, 20 or 100 virtual machines from your Azure cloud environment, and you want to give access of all these 100 virtual machines to someone at on-prem location. Now, are you going to give the access for every virtual machine to everyone individually? That is going to be difficult for you. So for that purpose, you can use one service named as Bastion. In future, we will discuss about that. But here, if we have 100 virtual machines, and if individual is having access for their virtual machine, and if they all going to store the data into their individual virtual machines separately, then as an admin, you will not be able to track the activity for anyone. In that case, what you can do, to create the number of virtual machines, first of all, we are using one single virtual network. In that, we are defining subnet, and in that, we are defining all those 100 virtual machines. Then, with all these 100 virtual machines, I want to locate only one single storage. Only one single database I want to create for all the virtual machines. Only there, they all going to store the data, and only from there, they will all going to access the data back. That means now for all these 100 virtual machines, this single storage can be considered as one single service endpoint. Right? Single responder for all your virtual machines. So that as an admin, now if you want to check the activity for any virtual machine or the database collected from any virtual machine, you do not need to go anywhere. You can just access this Azure storage or this storage from here as a service endpoint, and here only you will be able to check the activity of them. There is no any need for internet, because here for all the virtual machines and for this service endpoint, you can use private IP only to enable communication between them. First of all, this one is possible. Second thing, like if suppose when you are going to configure service endpoint, so you will get a list in front of you. Always this service endpoint will not be a storage account. It depends what type of scenario you have. If suppose that if you want to give authentication for all these virtual machines to the number of users, and you're going to integrate all these virtual machines with the single Active Directory, that everybody who all want to access any virtual machine from here going to be verified with one single centralized Active Directory, then that Active Directory also can be considered here as a service endpoint. Right? So when you're going to start the configuration of service endpoint, you will get a list of resources which you can consider here as a service endpoint. Now, if we are talking about this storage part only, so if you want to create your storage at your on-prem location and virtual machines are running on Azure, and you want to create the database about them at any on-prem, so that is also possible. You can do that. And here, for the secure connection, Azure offers you to use express route type of secure route, which offers you high security with high speed, but this will be much costlier as compared to VPN. And here you do not need to use any internet for express route services. Now, this is the list which I was telling you, right? When you're going to start the configuration of service endpoint, so in this way you will get a list in front of you. Anything from here as per your scenario, as per your requirement, you can select as service endpoint. That can be a storage account, SQL, service bus, key vault, Active Directory. Now it depends on scenario always. Now we have one more thing here named as private endpoint. What is this private endpoint? So when you're going to establish connection between your resource like virtual machine and the service endpoint, when you're going to establish connection between both of them, so here you can see we have cross mark on internet. That means here I'm using private IP only and somewhere kind of private URL only to establish connection between source and destination location, which will never be accessible to any outsider. Outsiders cannot gain access into this environment. Why? Because this is completely private connection. So this connection will be considered here as a private link between your service endpoint, like the storage, just for example, between the storage and your virtual machines, we have one private connection which will not be accessible to any outsider here. And then it is going to be completely secured so that no one can disturb your all communication here. That is private endpoint or private link, we can say. Now here we have another service named as application gateway. Exactly the same thing was there in that picture where I was defining you load balancing rules or load balancing services. So there we have discussed about application gateway. So when you're planning to deploy any application from Azure or from anywhere, so you can use the separate gateway service for that application. And for most of the application, we are using the gateway service. Suppose if you are planning to deploy any web application, so this is necessary to use a gateway there. Why? Because gateway offers you the web traffic load balancing service, by which you will be able to manage all the traffic coming to that web application from anywhere. Instead of using only single load balancer here with your application, you can use this application gateway, where in this application gateway, you will get traffic manager, means you can say you will get traffic manager and the load balancer both. That means with the help of this application gateway, you are not only managing the traffic coming to that application, you are also enabling security about your application with the help of application gateway. Some security services also will be available here for you. Now you can see, suppose I'm planning to deploy my application from the backend pool. In my backend pool, I have virtual machine skill set, anything I can use here. In short, we can say backend pool is an example of data center, virtual data center, from where I want to deploy my application. So whatever application we are planning to deploy here, at the front end of that application, where I want to receive all the traffic coming from anywhere, I want to receive that traffic only with the help of application gateway. Means for all the end users, we are going to share the details or the IP address only for that application gateway, so that every traffic, every request coming from client side can be received here. Then as an admin of this environment, you can implement some rules, security services here on the top of this application gateway, so that you can filter all the traffic at the entrance only. You can filter all the traffic at the entrance only. Suppose now, if you want to access my application, I'm deploying one WhatsApp type of application or Facebook type of application from here, just for example. You as a user is typing www.facebook.com. So that is not the complete URL. So first of all, when you sending your request here, your request is going to be received here by the application gateway. That is going to be verified that do we have the details, means do we have this user as registered user with this application database? If yes, then it is going to check the address for the backend pool. Is that the correct address? And then that address is going to convert in a URL with the help of HTTP or HTTPS listeners, hypertext transfer protocol or protocol service. So that is going to be converted in an appropriate URL to connect the request coming from client side to the appropriate backend pool server. And you can enable security for the HTTPS servers or HTTPS, we can say, platforms as well. Then only the user will be able to get any response from here. So in this way, we can use a specific service to filter the traffic or to manage the traffic for any specific application with the help of application gateway. Now here we have Azure front door, exactly the same thing we have discussed here already. Azure front door we are using as a global service. Suppose I have one application, just for example again, facebook.com. I am the owner of that application and I want to deploy that application for all the users in all around the world. Then definitely I cannot have the single data center for that application, only in one region. So in that case, I want to deploy that application from different regions. East US, West US, Central India, right, Australia. In multiple regions, I want to configure the data center of that application, especially there where we have huge number of users. But now who will verify that if the request is coming from Indian user? Who will decide that where to connect this request to give the quick response to the client? So for that purpose, we can use load balancer, but load balancer will not decide that, because load balancer cannot set the priority. Here priority option is not there with load balancer. So what we can do, for that purpose, we can configure this front door. First of all, inside this front door, you have all the properties of load balancer, traffic manager, as well as application gateway. Also, this front door offers you to set the severity or like we can say the priority level. If the request is coming from Indian user, it is going to verify the location from which region we have this request, and always it is going to connect that request in that backend pool with the appropriate region only, which is somewhere near to user, so that that user can get quick response from here, right? So in this way, if you have number of data centers configured at different location for the single application or for multiple application also, you can use the single front door. If the request is coming from Indian user, this front door is first of all going to verify the request type and going to connect that request with the Indian region only. somehow if something happens with that Indian region, so at the time of configuration, or admin always define the second highest priority for that. That can be, suppose, just for example, US. So the front door is going to send always that request to the Indian data center first of all. If that is not available to respond back, so it is going to connect that request to another highest priority data center, that can be US, just for example. So in this way, it offers you high availability services as well with security. Now here we have express route direct or express route. What is this? Just before some time we have discussed about VPN. What was this VPN? VPN is one service which we are going to purchase from some service provider by paying some extra amount to them, that I want one private route, private tunnel, where only I want to send or receive my traffic, my communication, only I want to perform communication there. No any outsider should be allowed there to gain access into that environment. But yes, for this service we will have to pay some extra charges to the service provider for this service. So here Azure says, suppose that I'm purchasing one VPN, and for that VPN we have one plan, like for one connection of VPN you will have to pay 100 USD every month, just for example. As you can see here, with VPN we are using VPN gateway if we want to integrate something from our on-prem environment to Azure. As you can see in this picture, we have on-prem data center as my headquarters. But here from this place, I want to create the copy of my data somewhere else as well. If something happens with this primary data center, so I want to configure recovery of my data. So one copy of this data I'm going to configure somewhere near to me at another location, another data center as physical location, or one copy of my data I'm going to upload on Azure. That means I have 3 copies. That means you have full high availability of your data. That is never going to be lost. But here you are using only one single VPN connection. If VPN connection or VPN service goes down, then there is no any high availability. So Azure says that if you want, you can do one thing. As your primary connection, you can use VPN. And as your secondary connection, you can use express route. Why? First of all, why I'm using this express route as secondary connection? Because this is much costlier as compared to VPN. Just for example, if for VPN you are paying 100 USD for 1 month, so for this express route you are going to pay 150 USD for 1 month, just for example. Okay, then when you are paying extra money for this express route, then why you using this connection as backup only? You should use it as primary. Why? Because it offers you much higher speed as compared to VPN. Where VPN offers you 10 Gbps of speed, there this express route offers you 100 Gbps of speed for communication. So why are you not using it as primary? Because in express route we have some plan. You can see at the end of this slide, billing models, unlimited, metered and premium. So at that time when I'm going to use this express route as backup only, then I will select this metered plan. Suppose the VPN services goes down for 10 minutes. So only for that 10-minute time, I want to use the express route. And then only I want to pay money to Azure. But this express route is not the service of Azure. Express route service Azure is also using to enable communication between their data centers. And Azure says that whatever backbone we are using to enable communication, you also can be the part of that. So that you do not need to purchase any separate internet connection or internet plan here. This is one benefit of yours. But are they using their own backbone? No. They have also purchased this service from other vendors. Right? So in this way, we can use this express route or VPN. Under one plan of express route, it offers you 2 different connections, connection 1 and connection 2. If somehow connection 1 goes down, connection 2 or the parallel connection 2 is always active, which offers you continuous connectivity. right? So under one plan only, you will get 2 connections in express route. But in VPN, we have one plan, 1 connection. Now here we have demo. So we have already configured that NSG, and ASG also was there. In ASG case, suppose if I want to create ASG, first of all, I will have to configure ASG only. Application security group from here. Just click on create, and I'm going to create this ASG in that same resource group. Now SG1, and just click on review and create quickly. Now if I'm deploying any service with the help of this ASG, I will be able to implement the same rules on the top of this ASG, whatever I have defined into NSG. Yes, this is ready. This is our ASG. Now later, whatever you want, you can do with this. You can configure application, you can integrate application for the deployment. But now for like integration only, what you can do, now I'm going to get back into NSG. I'm going to open my NSG here. And whatever ASG I have defined, for that I want to create one rule, a custom rule. Here, this time you can see we have ASG as well here. Do you want to accept the request from any specific ASG, or you want to accept the request from anywhere, but at destination location you want to connect that request to ASG? Application security group means from where you have deployed any application. Okay. Do you have deployed any application already? Yes. That is ASG1. And now other rules will be exactly same. So in this way, now if any request is coming from anywhere, I want to connect that request with this ASG1, right, to respond to the client. So in this way, we can use it. Now here we have the next topic, or we can say the next lesson of this module, where we will discuss about host security. What is this host security? Host is the destination device and user device. Now we have configured the security about all the resources, whatever we are deploying from Azure. Now it's time to implement the security for the host, where we are giving access of our services to anyone. We need to implement security about that resource, that client device as well. Right? So we will discuss about that here. In this host security, we will discuss about all these topics: endpoint protection, then privileged access workstation, virtual machine template, remote access management, update management, and data encryption, disk encryption, defender, security center recommendation, and securing Azure workload. Endpoint protection, as I already told you, that when I start deployment of any service from Azure cloud environment as an admin, so that is also my duty somewhere to implement security for the host machine on which any end user is going to access something from here. That is a client machine, client device. So on that client device also, that is my duty to enable encryption about that so that no one can gain access into that device. So here Azure offers you to configure endpoint protection also, by which we can first register all those devices here on Azure cloud environment by installing some tools into that. As you can see, install an endpoint protection solution and use the security center to monitor the solution. First of all, we are going to install some agent tools inside all those endpoint devices that are some laptop, desktop, on which our users going to access any service from here. And then we can monitor all the activities of those devices with the help of security center, which is available here on Azure. From there, we can start monitoring all our devices, all our registered devices, that what is happening right now with them. right? So all that activity we will be able to monitor, and timely we will be able to take any action if something happens with them. Now here we have privileged access device strategy. In this device strategy, before implementing this endpoint protection, Azure gives you recommendation. What is that? That when you going to you as a client going to access or going to access any service from Azure cloud environment, for that you will have to purchase any hardware like a laptop or desktop. So Azure gives you recommendation that always purchase any hardware only from the OEM, original equipment makers, and always purchase the latest series hardware, because in latest series hardware we have high security. So this is just one example, like how you're going to make that purchase. Device vendor, OEM reseller, you're going to have make this purchase as a customer, then they are going to deliver you to fulfill all your requirement, and you are the user. Now you're going to receive your device, your hardware. So Azure says always purchase the hardware only from the authorized vendors, so that you can get all the services there, all the up-to-date services. That hardware should be compatible with all these services. As you can see, your hardware should be enabled with TPM, Trusted Platform Module, which is one separate security chip available on the motherboard. Earlier, approximate 5 years or like 7 years back, if you can go, there you can see in our laptops, in our desktop, we were having, suppose if I'm talking about desktop motherboard. So into that desktop motherboard, we were having some BIOS. Now also we have that BIOS. BIOS is the initial program of any hardware. So in that BIOS, suppose that if I'm going to set some lock on my machine and if I forget the password, so from the BIOS only directly we can reset the password from there. Now suppose that if you have created two users in your machine, standard user or admin user, and with standard user you're going to enable some security services. Security services or means you're going to put some restriction that only this area will be accessible to you as a standard user. I want to define that. Easily we can do this. But there we have one problem as well. What was that problem? That if the standard user is directly accessible to the motherboard, then that person can disconnect the BIOS cell CMOS battery from there, and automatically all the settings going to reset. And then that person can change their access rights by accessing that device with the help of admin account. But now that is not possible because TPM chip is not taking power from the BIOS directly. CMOS battery, no. This is always in saved mode. And if someone wants to do something, suppose that if you forget the password of your device, in that case there is no any solution. You will have to go to market to change that TPM chip only. That means now if someone want to access your device, want to hack your device, that person will have to access your TPM. And TPM can be accessed only in that case where you are physically available to that machine. So this is highly secure device, like we can say chip available on motherboard. As well as your device should be compatible with BitLocker type of encryption. Most of the devices are compatible with that. UEFI compatible, UEFI secure boot. This is one latest type of firmware or BIOS, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. Driver and firmware distributed through the Windows update. Virtualization and HVCI enabled. Virtualization enabled. Driver and application HVCI ready. Windows Hello, which is by default available in most of the machines now with operating system as well. DMA input-output protection, system guard, and modern standby. So all these functions should be there in that hardware. Your hardware should be compatible with all the functions. Right? So always use or purchase the standard hardware from the original equipment makers only, so that you will get high security. Now here we have Privileged Access Workstation, PAW. Suppose now you start deploying any service from Azure cloud environment. From your backend pool you are deploying something. So in that case you can use this PAW workstation type. Why we are using this? So here we are designing one workstation to provide high security assurance for the sensitive accounts and tasks. This PAW is only accessible to the admin of this environment for the identity system and cloud services. PAW should always run the most of the time, and always this PAW will be up to date and secure with the secured operating system with strong like security we will have to implement on this PAW. From here, from this PAW machine, privileged access workstation, from here I want to deploy any service for the end users. But if directly I'm going to give the access of this PAW machine to all the end users, that you all can send the request here to the PAW, which is the admin machine, and then you all will be accessible to the service from here. Is that the right way? No. Why? Because if somehow this attacker access any client device and copy all the credential from there, so with the help of same credential, that attacker also will be able to gain access into this machine, and this is admin machine, so he will be able to control the complete environment, which I do not want. So in that case, what we can do, at the front end of our backend pool, at the front end of our data center, we always use one admin PAW. We always use one admin machine by which we are managing every activity in my physical data center or in my virtual data center. So this admin machine is always everywhere. But what we can do when we want to receive any request for the backend pool from everywhere, we are not directly giving access of this admin machine to anyone. So because of that, Azure offers you, or Azure says like you can do one thing. At the front end of your environment, you can use one more device named as Jumpbox. With the help of this Jumpbox, you will be able to filter all the requests here. The specialty of Jumpbox is this Jumpbox never disclose the identity of your backend pool, like how many resources we have configured in backend pool. It is never going to disclose that with anyone. So always the request is coming from client side is going to be received here at the Jumpbox. It is going to check the request type and verify. Then only the user will be accessible to any service from the backend pool, right? Then here we have virtual machine templates. What is this virtual machine template? This is just one method to create a virtual machine. Suppose if I want to create a virtual machine here in Azure cloud environment, we have number of options, not only for virtual machine, because virtual machine is just one example. But if we want to create a virtual machine here on Azure, so how many methods we have here? First of all, we can create a virtual machine with the help of simple Azure portal by manually selecting everything from our side, right? Subscription name, resource group name, and everything we will have to select from our side. That is with the help of Azure portal by using GUI, graphical user interface. Another option we have here, that is with the help of PowerShell, that you can take help from PowerShell if you are expert in PowerShell commands. So with the help of that also you can create the virtual machine. Third option, that here one PowerShell you can use from your physical machine, and you first will have to connect your physical computer's PowerShell with Azure, so that whatever you're going to type in your physical machine's PowerShell, that is going to put impact on your Azure account. This is second option. Third option, Azure says that why you accessing the PowerShell from your physical machine, that PowerShell is already available here on Azure. You can access that directly and create your resource. So to access that PowerShell, we have one option available here on Azure that is named as Cloud Shell. In that Cloud Shell, you will get pre-installed PowerShell, as well as there you will get one more platform named as Bash. Bash says if you are expert in Linux or Linux commands and you want to use Linux commands here to create or manage your resources, so you can use Bash platform, which offers you Linux terminal, and there you can start writing your command. As well as if you want, you can use CLI also, command line interface, but that is not pre-installed in Azure. You first will have to install this, and then you can use CLI commands also there to create or manage your resources. Same way, Azure offers you one more method that if you are from programming background and you are expert in JSON, JavaScript object notation, so there you can use your knowledge. You can write one template about the creation of virtual machine. Every detail about that virtual machine, every configuration of that virtual machine you can define inside that template, and then you can deploy that template here in Azure with the help of PowerShell, and then quickly you will be able to create or deploy your resources. So these templates we are not using only to create the virtual machine. Templates can be used here to create, deploy, manage, or delete any resource here on Azure. So templates can be used here for development environment, production environment, and quality assurance. So it depends why and where we want to use it. Now here we have remote access management. Yes, this is very good example we have here. In this backend pool, suppose that I am the administrator of one Azure account, and there I have created number of virtual machines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 or 20 or 100 virtual machines I have created here. Now I want to give the remote of these virtual machines to someone at any on-prem location or anywhere. And in these virtual machines, in some virtual machines, I have installed Windows operating system. In some virtual machines, I have installed, we can say, Linux operating system. Now, I want to give the access of these virtual machines to someone. How we can do that? So we have simple methods. Like first of all, I'm going to copy the IP address of this virtual machine, username and password of this virtual machine, and then with individual user, we're going to share them. But if we have 100, 200 virtual machines, so that is going to be difficult. And in that case, I will have to assign public IP to every virtual machine, which I do not want. So in that case, Azure says that you can do one thing. You first create all your virtual machines, Windows or Linux virtual machines. And then to protect all those virtual machines, you can do one thing. You can install one Bastion service there. Bastion is some type of jump server, where internally you can integrate all your virtual machines with your Azure Bastion by using private IP only. There you're not going to use any public IP with your virtual machine, so that if someone want to bypass this Bastion, still that person will not be accessible to any virtual machine here. So in the backend pool, you can integrate all your virtual machine with Bastion, and at front end, you're going to receive all the requests coming from client side on the Bastion only. Then this Bastion will check the availability of virtual machine in backend pool, and on the basis of that only, it is going to give response to the client from here. That is Azure Bastion service, which we can use here to hide the identity of all these virtual machines, or to disclose the identity of the virtual machine in front of any user. So this gives you secure access for the resource or virtual machines. Now here we have data encryption. This is a very good service we have here on Azure. Azure says, like when you're creating any virtual machine, first of all, I want to tell you about one thing here. Suppose I want to create one storage account on Azure Cloud Platform. So each and every storage account, whatever we are creating, each and every storage account is by default secured with the help of one service named as SSE, Storage Service Encryption. Each and every storage account is by default secured with that. Always encrypted. But there, with that SSE, Azure offers you two different methods of encryption. One is Microsoft managed key, another one is customer managed key. Azure says, like if you want to create your encryption key from your side, that is okay. Otherwise, by default, we will work with Microsoft managed key, and we are going to encrypt that storage account. Now, whatever data you're going to put into that storage account, that is going to be by default secured from our side. You do not need to take care. Do not need to worry about that. But the same way, Azure says that we are also giving you option. If you do not want to trust on us and you want to create your key, complicated key from your side, so you can go with customer managed key. And with the help of that, you can enable encryption. Means you first can create a key and you can integrate that key with your storage account. And then that is again encrypted. But in that case, if you forget that key, then there is no solution. So Azure says that when you're going to work with customer managed key, in the bottom of this slide, you can see it store encryption keys in a customer managed key vault. So when you start using this customer managed key for the encryption of your storage account or for the encryption of your disk, which you have assigned to your virtual machine, in both cases, Azure says that when you want to enable encryption with customer managed key, you should create one key vault first. Key vault is one secured location we have here on Azure. And with the help of that key vault, you are going to create a key, and then you're going to integrate that key with your storage account or with your disk. So that in future, if you forget that key, easily you can recover that back from that key vault. Also, if you want to enable encryption at the disk level, so you can use this BitLocker as simple. If you are working with Windows virtual machine, if you are working with Linux virtual machine, so you can use another tool that is named as DMCraft. So you are open for that. Now here we have some security center recommendation. When we want to have monitoring about the Azure cloud platform, in that case, Azure offers you one platform named as Security Center, from where you will be able to check the status or health status of your resources, whether your resource is secured or not. If you want to have, or if you want to check the security level of your resources, so with the help of this Security Center, you will be able to check that. Now, instead of discussing on theoretical basis, here I'm going to show you from where you will be accessible to this Security Center. Initially, before some time, this Security Center was directly accessible to us. But now here we have some number of options. First of all, I'm going to click on this option here and move this page down. Here you can see we have Microsoft Defender for cloud. Just click on it. And all the monitoring about your security services you can catch from here. Right now, I do not have any plan enabled for me. I have never purchased anything because I'm working with trial plan only. So here you can see every status, means everything related to the status of your services. You can check from here. You have workbook here, community, security posture, everything, where you will be able to check the security status of your resources, regulatory compliance, everything you can check from here related to the security status. Right? If we have configured any firewall, but all the services, whatever you can see here, are paid. From this place, you can purchase a DDoS protection plan and you can implement this. So every service is listed here. Now, if you want to access only Security Center, so just write security. In this security, you can see we have Security Center. And here, because directly and indirectly, the Security Center is also the part of Microsoft Defender. Right? You can click here, get identity and access recommendation, and again, you are going to redirect to this, we can say, Defender only. Now you can see in the Security Center, we have a number of plans for every service. Whatever you want to use, for every service, you will have to pay charges. Suppose if you want to implement security about servers, under one plan, you will get 2 servers security, and for that, you will have to pay 15 USD every month. Application service instance also can be secured, 15 USD every month. So in this way, you first can look into plan, and accordingly, you will be able to use it. And from this place, you can go to the security status, Defender for Cloud, and from here, you will be able to browse to your plans. Right here, you will be able to check the security status about your resources. But because I have not configured anything, any security service for any resource, so there is nothing. And now, here, we are done with this host security as well. Right? So guys, finally here, we are done for this module. And after this, we all will have to perform the lab. As yesterday, we have already covered that same session. Like now we are going to have 30 minutes break here. right? After that 30 minutes break, we are again going to join the session just to perform the lab. There will not be any screen sharing. You all have the access for the Q&A. There, you all going to ask about your queries, your questions, and then you all going to complete your lab. Right? Labs are here. Today, you will have to perform lab number 7, lab number 8, lab number 9, right? So you will have to complete these labs today. Lab number 7 to lab number 9, you all will have to complete by today. Right? Thank you, everyone. Now we will meet again in 30 minutes. Thank you.